of Mind Over Masculinity, the podcast where we challenge outdated norms, dive deep into what it really means to be a man today, and also explore the intersections of mental health, masculinity, and the personal growth. Yeah, I'm your host Avik, and I'm so excited to uh, for this today's episode because we are about to flip the script on something that doesn't get early enough airtime. Yes, which are hormones, testosterone, and emotional intelligence. Yes. So, dear listeners, our guest today is Chelsea McLeod. So, welcome to the show, Chelsea.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Amazing. So, Chelsea, like before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all the listeners. Dear listeners, Chelsea is a powerhouse hormone health coach who's transforming the lives of high achieving women and men alike. So she has helped over 200 women heal hormone and gut imbalances, and she works one to one with C suite executives, entrepreneurs, and athletes to boost testosterone, improve energy, and at the same time reclaim health without burnout. Yeah. So Chelsea left the uh, corporate rat race after running herself into the ground, and now she's on a mission to help a million women worldwide heal their hormones. But today we are flipping the lens for men. So, like, how do hormones, especially testosterone, shape not just our bodies, but our emotions, resilience, and the mental health? So, I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. Let's welcome to the show. Welcome again, Chelsea.
Hey, it's so good to be here.
Amazing, amazing. So, Chelsea, and when most people think of testosterone, they think like muscle, aggression, libido. But how does testosterone actually impact a man's mental health and the emotional balance? I mean, if you can share.
Yeah. So when we talk about testosterone, I mean, most men just
Mm,
think it has to do with libido, but it
mm,
has such a big impact on the entire system of a man's
yeah.
body, right? And so what I typically see is when men are in very, very emotionally distressed states, when they're going through stuff, when they're not feeling feelings, when they're not really processing and metabolizing feelings, it has a really big impact on testosterone, which can really affect not just libido and strength and stamina and muscle growth, but also things like sleep. I see issues with weight. I see
Mm,
issues with, drive and determination and energy
yeah.
levels as well. And so I've noticed this really big pattern whereby, when men can really learn emotional intelligence, get the support they need, and really learn how to express emotions rather than stuffing them, it actually has a physical impact on their body as well.
Yeah, exactly. Very true. And like and also in this, like you have mentioned mood swings and motivations. So uh would you say a testosterone imbalance could be at the root of what men describe like feeling off or maybe emotionally flat. So what do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people will go
Mhm.
straight to doing something like an antidepressant or, an anti-anxiety medication when they haven't really examined their body as a system and where there may
Okay.
be too much of something and not enough of something else. That really leads to these systemic imbalances that cause men to
Mhm.
not look or feel the way they want to. So there's so many layers that we have to peel back to just make
Mm.
sure that the body is actually getting the core building blocks of what it needs, whether that's nutrition, rest, water, emotional balance. There's so many different pieces of that pillar to make sure that men actually feel good.
Mm. True. Okay. I mean, yeah, that really reframes actually. I mean, we are quick um, to label irritability or maybe the low drive of a kind of midlife crisis, but it might actually be a psychological issues as well. So, what do you think on this?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are very quick to say, "Oh, well, I'm just not sleeping because I'm getting older.
Mm.
Oh, I'm just getting this little inner tube around my belly because I'm over 40." And the truth is those aren't inherently part of getting older. What they are a
mm,
part of is, a body and a system that's out of balance. And I see so many men in their, 40s, 50s, even 60s able to release that weight, fix their libido. And, of course, there's, a natural decrease in testosterone after 30, but it's not as big as you would
mm,
think. And so for men who are actually taking care of themselves, there's so much you can do to boost testosterone naturally to make sure that you have the muscle mass, you have the strength, bone density, that, your red blood cell production is still strong, your sexual function is strong, mood is high, and then also cognitive function, which includes that memory and focus.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So you work with high performing men like C-suite roles and entrepreneurships. So what pattern have you seen? Like, because this level of I mean, men, they are mostly into stress or something. So have you seen any pattern between the stress, testosterone levels, mental clarity, emotional resilience, anything like can share?
Absolutely. So, for most men I'm working with, they are in
Mm-hmm.
extremely high demanding roles. A lot of them
Mm-hmm.
also have children, families, wives. And so naturally they're juggling a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, sometimes a lot of financial stress as well, on top of just work, right? And so for these men, I tend to see when their stress levels are chronically elevated over a period of time, it has a really big impact on testosterone levels. And there's actually a scientific reason for that. When
Mm-hmm.
cortisol, which is the key stress hormone
Yeah.
present in the stress response,
Mhm.
testosterone takes a hit because all the precursor to testosterone that would typically go to make testosterone is
Mm,
actually going to a totally different hormone, and that's cortisol. So it's kind of stealing the precursor, if that makes sense. So for a lot of men, I'll see low testosterone. I'll see things like low DHEA, which is the precursor to testosterone. I will
mhm,
also see, more weight gain, especially around the belly, like that visceral fat that you see around the abdomen. And then also, obviously, sleep disturbances. So, when cortisol is elevated, they're not able to sleep well. But the problem is that most of the testosterone is actually really closely tied to sleep. It's really manufactured during those first few hours of the night when men are in
yeah.
their deep sleep cycles. And so it's kind of a self perpetuating loop, right? Where they're not sleeping because their stress is high, but then they're not producing testosterone because not just because of elevated cortisol levels, but because they're also not sleeping and they're also not eating the right things, and so they're not getting the zinc, the vitamin D, the magnesium, so it just kind of goes into this crazy loop, and the good news is there's so many solutions that you can take to
Mm.
correct this if you're really serious about it.
Exactly, and I really love what you mentioned about the zinc, magnesium. So, do you think? I mean, because we are in this fast, processed world, and we are mostly into work and stress, everything. So, do you think, I mean, having all those things from a natural medium, natural food, uh, is better, or sometimes supplements can also help filling those gaps? So, what do you think?
Now, what I know to be true from,
Mhm,
hundreds of functional medicine lab tests I've run for clients,
mhm,
and also just my own research on the food industry and how food is farmed and the nutritional
mm,
density of food, is that
mm,
obviously we have to get our nutrients from food. We can't just out supplement a bad diet. But what I also see is
exactly.
people who are eating whole foods and they're eating,
Mm,
a very diverse phytonutrient rich diet and they're still nutrient deficient. And that's because, foods are not farmed in the same way they used to be and they have significantly fewer nutrients. So I 100% believe and have seen it come through in my clients' results as well is that we have to be supplementing for core nutrients
mm,
in addition to a strong diet.
exactly. It's great. And so how much of this comes down to a simple daily habits? I mean, like, what to say? Like, I mean, you have helped men boost testosterone without the steroids and extreme interventions, right? So, um,
Mhm.
if I have to ask, like, what are the biggest lifestyle or maybe the environmental factors that killing men's testosterone right now? I mean, if you can share.
Definitely. So besides stress, obviously, so environmental stressors, it's sleep
Mm,
quality. And so really
yeah.
making sure that men are getting to bed, 10 p.m. is the gold
Mhm,
standard. If they could get
mm,
7 to 8 maybe even 9 hours of high quality sleep every night. And, I always tell my clients, like, use a tool like an Aura Ring to really make sure that you're not only sleeping, but that you're getting the high quality deep sleep and REM sleep to make sure, that's when the testosterone oven is cooking, right? And so if
Mm,
someone's not really hitting those deeper layers of sleep, there's so much they can do to clean up just their evening routine, but also their morning routine to make sure that they're getting high quality sleep. And it's not as hard as you
mm,
would think. I tell my clients to use things like blue light blocking glasses and there
mm,
are some really powerful natural herbal supplements that help just calm your nervous system for bed. And,
mm,
and I always tell people like a really simple tool is the 3-2-1 method, where 3 hours before you sleep, so let's call it 7 p.m., the kitchen is closed. So last meal gets in 2 hours before, no more water. And 1 hour before eliminating the blue light. And that has a huge impact on circadian rhythm for a lot of my male clients. As far as food, like, that has the
mm,
biggest impact straight away as far as just, shifting from a processed diet
mm,
to whole foods, nutrient dense. If it's from a bag or a box or you can't recreate it in your kitchen, don't
mm,
eat it. Learn what's in your food. Turn the package around. Make sure you know what's actually going in your body. And I think people get
mm,
really overwhelmed by this process, but it can be so simple if you have the right coaching and the right tools, right?
mm,
And just having those vegetables, lean proteins, healthy fats through things like olive oil, which also
mm,
helps with satiation for men, especially if they're working out a lot, right? Like
mm.
I work with a lot of men who they're former athletes. They're not the kind of guys who are sitting on the couch with their
Okay.
their hand in a bag of chips, but they
Mm,
still don't look and feel the way they want to because they haven't really
mm,
refined their diet quite. Um, they haven't dialed it in quite well enough. But it's just so easy once they do it because they also notice how good they look and how good they feel.
mm,
Um, obviously weightlifting, I feel like that goes without saying. A little bit of high intensity interval training and aerobic exercise is fantastic.
yeah.
Um, and also just watching those cortisol levels, right? And so there's a lot of stress
Mm,
management techniques that they can do, meditation, deep breathing, but also there's some
mm,
powerful supplementation that they can add in to really support their nervous system. So the zinc, vitamin D for a lot of clients, if we do the hormone testing and they're low in DHEAs,
mm,
we can add some bioidentical DHEA to boost their testosterone without doing TRT, and it works really, really well. Super, super effective. So I always say, like, if you give me 2 months, I could probably double your testosterone output. It's not hard when you have the right tools.
mm. Dominance and assertiveness. But how does it interact with the emotional regulation and empathy? I mean, can balancing hormones actually help men show up more emotionally available, or what? I mean, yeah.
I think it goes almost the opposite way, right? Like, I think the body reflects physically what's going on
Mm,
emotionally. And so it's more that I'm sure what you're saying is also true. I think it goes in a loop.
mm,
But when we talk about resolving hormonal imbalances for men or for women, we have to look at
mm,
what feeling is not being felt. We have to look at
mm,
what stress triggers are actually happening in
mm,
our life because a lot of the time they're just perceived stresses, right? Like they're not real
mm,
stresses. There's things that we decide are stressful to us. And so for a lot of men, it's feelings of
mm,
unworthiness, it's feelings of fear, it's feelings of shame. Like these different feelings come up for them that are actually triggering a survival response in their body. So
mm,
learning emotional intelligence is actually something that can help get you
mm,
physical results faster, if that makes sense.
mm. Okay, okay, understood. Yeah. And I mean, do you find that men's hormones improve their relationships and communications naturally also?
Yeah, I would say so because when your
Mhm,
testosterone is at a healthy level, you're more likely to show up in your community. You're more likely to be a good partner. You're more likely to, have that natural drive
mm,
to be in community. And I think the opposite is also true. I think being in community and
mm,
having strong friendships and being fully expressed is also going to help your body heal and help your cortisol levels
yeah.
drop so that you're actually producing more testosterone. So I think they kind of work together.
Mm, true, exactly. Wow. And I mean, I really love that. I mean, it challenges the idea that strength and softness cannot coexist, that improving your health can actually make someone better at love, relationships, leadership, life, everything. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And also, like you have mentioned about the gut health that actually plays a role in hormonal health. Like for the average guy, just saying, like for the average guy who's never thought about his gut beyond, like, did I eat too much or what's the connection? Then how might gut issues be silently undermining testosterone and mood? So, what do you think?
With gut health, what I see in a lot of my clients, especially those who have, very demanding jobs, high stress, a lot of travel,
Hmm,
is that sometimes, especially if they have symptoms, so that mean it could be like bloating after meals,
hmm,
that could be digestive discomfort, not having a bowel movement at least once a day, or having,
hmm,
loose stool frequently. Um, is that sometimes there could be an underlying issue with the gut that's actually causing a systemic imbalance that is affecting our testosterone. So, let me give you an example. I have one client who, he was traveling between the Middle East, Australia, and the US,
hmm,
very stressed. He was not sleeping a lot. He got food poisoning when he was
hmm,
in the Middle East or somewhere, I can't remember exactly where he was, but he got
hmm,
food poisoning, and so he essentially had a parasite that he didn't know about, and, I'm not talking about anything crazy like tapeworms, but sometimes parasites can be very discreet, right? It's just kind of food
hmm,
poisoning or bacteria kinda that you get while you're traveling, and it can really throw your body into a state of high alert and high stress, and
hmm.
so when that happens, the cortisol elevates, which knocks the testosterone. So sometimes it's not always an emotional issue or a
Mm,
lifestyle issue. Like for him, he was eating really healthy, but, he just picked up a gut issue while he was away, and that caused his testosterone to drop. And as soon as we were able to resolve the gut, the testosterone
mm,
equalized. And so everything kind of works together, right? So nothing works in isolation.
mm.
And if one part of the body is out of balance, it can really affect other parts.
Exactly, exactly true. Yep. Huh, amazing. And also, like, what's the one thing you wish every man listening could understand about his hormones and his mental health?
I think a lot of people accept looking or feeling less than what they want to because they think that that's normal or they think that that's a product of just getting older. And one thing that I wish more men knew is there is so much opportunity to heal and improve and to feel better. And, for a man who may be feeling really stuck
Mm,
and really low, and I'm sure they're, naturally given the subject of this podcast, like there's going to be some men who
mm,
really feel down and really feel low, and sometimes when you're in those really low places, especially as a man where you may not have the same support that a woman would, you don't have a big group of friends to talk to about this kind of stuff, and it's not always easy for men to talk about. It can be really hard to pull yourself out of that place, and so for those people, like, while I do believe in, things like medication in certain instances just to get someone out of the bed or back at work, like, just to stabilize and get them to the point where they can start to make healthy lifestyle choices.
mm.
There's so much opportunity for healing and growth and, feeling good again as soon as you make the decision and set the intention to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, amazing. So, and also one more thing. I mean, if a guy is hearing this and thinking, this is me. Yes, yes, so you said correctly. Then what's the small step? First small step, rather, I would say, like he should take to start addressing this.
I would say clean up your food. And, that starts with just can we nix the Uber Eats just for 1 week? Just do a little
Mm,
experiment where it's we're not doing Uber Eats or delivery or eating out this week. We're gonna get a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store. We're gonna get some
okay.
vegetables, we're gonna put them in the oven, we're gonna roast them, and get some veggies, get some rice, but sweet potatoes, whatever it is, and just
Mm,
try a week of home cooking and see how you feel. That can have such a massive impact just so your body has the
mm,
building blocks to start making testosterone, to feel real energy. Um, I can't say enough about, how big of a difference it makes in men's in how they look and how they feel in a very short period of time.
Wow, amazing. Lovely. That's great. So, Chelsea, thank you so much for this eye-opening conversation. And um, honestly, like this goes way beyond testosterone because it's about reclaiming the ownership of our health, our minds, our emotional lives as men. So, thank you so much for sharing this. And also, like, dear listeners, if you're listening or something in this episode has resonated with you, then whether it's the unexplained fatigue or the feeling of being stuck, I encourage you all to explore this deeper. And um, if you need, talk to a doctor, talk to a person whom you believe the most, seek out a functional health practitioner, or even just start a few lifestyle shifts that Chelsea shared. So you can connect with Chelsea and also remember that strength isn't about ignoring the signs, it's all about listening and choosing to take action. And before we move, so Chelsea, if someone wants to connect with you and have a one to one discussion on the same, so how they can connect?
You can find me on Instagram at Healthy with Chels. And, because this is mostly a discussion for men, obviously my Instagram, the marketing is geared mostly towards women. But I also want you to know that if you are a man and this is something that you are interested in really shifting for yourself at speed, I work with men in private one-on-one containers. Um, so that is always an option for someone who really wants those rapid results and is ready to make change.
Lovely. Great. So, dear listeners, I'll put all the links into the show notes for your easy reference. And thank you so much for tuning into Mind Over Masculinity. And if this episode has sparked something in you, then please share it with a friend, family, or someone who actually needs to listen to this. And leave us a review and keep the conversation going. So, with this hope, until next time, this is your host, Avik, reminding you that it's not just about being strong, it's all about being whole. So, thank you so much.